started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and now...
That's right. We are live.
The ghost faced himself, Brandon Tanev.
This isn't like the start of last season when it was just, it looked like the Canucks were just a beer league team not playing defense at all. And just before Chris goes, no, I'm kidding, Chris, you can actually go now.
No, hold on.
Oh, we had to give more time for coming on late. So.
I still had, hold on. All right. Chris, go, and then I got something else to say at the end.
So, an elf and a midget in 2 back-to-back games. Yeah, he's definitely on a friendship tour for sure.
Saying, oh yeah, I'm okay with him being, the 6'7" defenseman. No! He is a AHL defenseman right now.
Look, Shonky, don't mind Devin, okay? We all struggle with Devin, so you know.
Well, good Sunday evening to you. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network, as we are doing our weekly podcast on Sunday. We're moving to Sundays for the summer here, as we have a very busy, crazy offseason. We've got lots going on here. We are, good grief. Okay, 4 days from the draft, 10 days from free agency, and insanity reigned all over the place. So we'll get to a lot of it today. We got a lot going on. Hello, Sean.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. I am probably sounding a lot. I don't mean to say that you sound awful, but I am sounding better than you. And I'm not saying that I am the greatest voice of all time, though I'm better than Pierre Polyev. Everyone's talking about his voice. I have a better voice than his, but you're sounding a little something.
Yeah. Last week I've been dealing with a cold since last week. Unfortunately, that was why we had to postpone our draft preview with Derek Neumeyer from future considerations. But we have rescheduled that for tomorrow on Monday. So I'm excited for that. And I will tough it through this. And I'm excited to get back on because there's a lot to talk about. I didn't get a chance to talk about the Sedins and Luongo getting into the Hockey Hall of Fame, which I'm very excited for, and let alone everything else that's happened. We got our over the weekend. We got July 1st, which is traditionally the start of free agency, and we got a taste of some of the fun off-season stuff on that day, and we're getting more and more every day now.
Yes. Maybe so we got a lot to get through here, and then we've got a lot to catch up on. So maybe let's start with the promotion stuff here. So tomorrow we're going to be doing a draft preview. Derek Neumeyer, our annual draft preview. There's a lot to talk about with the draft because will this be one of the first drafts that they go opposite of what the Bob Father says is the number one pick, or the Bob Father's scouts say is the number one pick? So we'll get into that. We'll dive into what the Vancouver Canucks do, because that will be a big question. There's a couple of interesting names in the middle of the board that are causing some controversy, not because they're controversial people, but because a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about them. So we'll dig into that. We're going to ask Derek about how excited he is as he's traveling to Montreal to be part of this, which is exciting. And finally to be in the first in-person draft since Tyler broke into my house in 2019. Do you realize this?
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. Vasily Pod. How did Steamer call? What did Steamer call Pod Colson? Podsloven?
Yes, yeah, exactly. He sounded like Devin, I think. So, so we got lots to get into. Chris is going to join us in a bit. So we're okay. So what we'll do? Okay, and then we're going to be doing some other draft. We got some free. we're planning. I'm planning to figure out. We're trying to figure out a free agency preview. I haven't talked with everybody about that, so we'll get into that later as well. And we've got a lot of draft previews on the WHL on Area 51. I am there, so watch that. I've just written my first Calgary Flame piece on Area 51. We just need, so that will be up soon. So we're going to start with the Flames because we're going to wait for Chris to jump on before we get to the Canucks. And we got a whole heck of a lot of things to get into. But Sean, I don't know. I must be the new Johnny Gaudreau insider in Calgary and probably in Edmonton as well, because Oiler fans seem to be enjoying my Johnny Gaudreau status updates, although I'm just repeating what everybody else is saying. According to Elliot Friedman, he believed that the offer was 8 years and $9.5 million. Brad Treliving talked to Ryan Leslie, and they said they're going to do all that they can to keep Johnny Gaudreau in Calgary. And then, of course, you still have the other big question here, which is not an urgent of a question, but it is an urgent question, if that makes any sense, is what does Matthew Tkachuk do? And then everything else that falls there. But the thing that stirred some pots was Gaudreau and 8.9.5 seemed to stir some possible good news that there is a possibility. But then Chris Johnson on his podcast, the CS Show, put out a theory that this weekend that was interesting. He suggested that the Seattle Kraken are going to make a huge push for Johnny Gaudreau. They do have the cap space. They have the draft picks if they need to make some trades. Of course, this is completely contrary to the theory that he wants to go out east. So, but I think that this is, I guess, really from the Flames' perspective, nothing can get done until we know what happens with Johnny Gaudreau. So we're at right now, really with Johnny is we're at the wait and see mode. The Flames have made their pitch at this point, and we're just waiting for Johnny to decide what he wants to do.
Yeah. I think everyone who watches and listens knows where I stand on signing late 20s players to 7-8 year deals, but I think that's the price of admission here. So they're going to have to do that. Seattle's going to have to throw 6 brink trucks at Gaudreau to for him to sign there, I think. There's nothing there. Like it. What does Johnny want more than anything else right now is the question. Does he want to win, or does he want to cash in? I think it's more of the former than the latter with him. So I think he's going to be looking more for that than the amount of money. So Seattle's going to have to do a lot more than just throw a lot of money at him to convince him to go there, in my eyes. And I think it just comes down to right now whether or not he wants to test, whether or not he wants to see what's out there. I think they got rid of that quote unquote legal tampering week, right? Or 2 days.
Well, okay. Well, yes. So they got rid of the public legal perception of legal tampering, but come on, let's just face it. We know that there's going to be tampering, even though Bettman does not believe that there are loopholes in the salary cap, and there's no funny business going on. We know that there's going to be tampering. We know that someone is going to sign at 12:01 Eastern time, and so there's going to be conversations.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's I think Gaudreau will be back, and that 8 times 9.5 will probably be around what he'll end up signing.
This is my theory. I think that this is, so I put the poll out here. Who of the three is Johnny or Matthew are the Flames getting both of them back? Is one of them leaving? I think the Johnny Gaudreau contract, I think that this contract is going to face a lot of criticism because I think it's going to be more than people think. I'm having a hard time believing that this is going to be under $10 million. I think that just, I think the other price of admission here for Canada is you have to add $1 million to every contract. So there always is going to be a little bit of an overpay, and you have to evaluate that. I think it's going to be over 10. I've kind of always stuck with that. I think the question comes down to Matthew Tkachuk and what he is going to do. I think if Johnny stays, he will probably be more inclined to stay. But I guess what price is the question here, and I don't know. I'm not convinced at this point that keeping both of them is the right move for Calgary. I think that, if you're going to pay Johnny, yeah, I get it. I understand that there's going to be people that are screaming at me Matthew got 100 points. He was dog shit in the playoffs. He was dog shit in the most important time of the playoffs in the Battle of Alberta. He was dog shit after he yapped at Evander Kane. So I'm still sore about that. I think, I don't know. I think that Brad Treliving would love to get him back, but I'm not sure that ultimately is the right move. And I'm not sure Matthew is willing to stay long-term. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't think the Tkachuk contract needs to be long-term as long as it's not like a 1-year deal walking him to free agency.
Yeah.
I think that's that for me, that would be a win for the Flames.
But then there's two or three other issues here. So you got Andre Mangiapane, who he is going to drive a hard bargain. That's already happened. Rich Winter already came out and said that they're going to test free agency the next time they go to free agency. Now maybe the other way to look at this is, do you keep Tkachuk and trade Mangiapane and see what you can get for him? And does someone overpay for Andre Mangiapane? That's an interesting question because, there is 35 goals, and that could be an appeal for someone. But and maybe someone like I'm just here are some teams I think that I think might fit this Mangiapane. I think Winnipeg could be an option because with Jean-Guy getting Rick Boeser as a new coach, I think that might be a fit. I believe that those two have some sort of history together, or Mangiapane played with Dale Hawerchuk, so there might be a history there. I wonder if St. Louis is an option. They just lost Topashenko for a while, so that might be an option. I'm just in terms of an offer sheet, I wonder if the Oilers, if this gets to an offer sheet, I wonder if the Oilers do it. He might be a fit up there to throw an offer sheet at. I know that you're making a funny face for those that are listening on the podcast now.
I don't know if they've got the cap room for an offer sheet.
Yeah, that's fair. And there could be other. Those are three teams that are two for sure that are popping on: Winnipeg and St. Louis, and maybe Carolina, depending on what goes on there. There are teams that are going to be interested in Mangiapane for sure. So,
oh yeah,
that's a possibility of a good trade option there. But
I don't know if I've thought that Mangiapane might be a trade option there. Because when you look at, it just depends on where you think what his demands are, whether they think it's worth it. Is that contract going to be efficient against the cap? Do they think that Dubé can step up into the role? Maybe not score 35 goals, but can Dubé step up into Mangiapane's role and be maybe a 20-goal scorer? If they feel that way, then I definitely think that they could move on, because I've been banging that drum for a while, like wondering if Dubé would be a sorry Tyler sweetener in a move to try and
That's
clear
put
up
on the
cap
new
space.
intro. That's the second time. Did you see Tyler's face when you last week when Chris went sweetener? No, it was me, sweetener. He
And yeah, so yeah, if they feel that Dubé can step up, but they've also got if Dubé can step up and play a higher in the lineup and be effective, then I could see them moving Mangiapane for sure. Especially because you need, especially if you're gonna pay Tkachuk and Gaudreau around $10 million.
And then the other two other issues here with the Flames, and then I want to toss a question at you here. The two other issues here. The Chris Tanev injury, he's missing the start. We know he's going to miss the start of the season. At least we know until November. That's not a guarantee that he's back in November, though. He's got several injuries.
Let alone, is he going to be good? Is he going to be at 100% Chris Tanev?
Yep.
Defensive savant when he gets back, which he probably won't be. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. So, and then again, the other thing for those who, I've repeated this drum before, but in 2 years, Elias Lindholm is a free agent. His new contract comes up in 2024. He is making $4.1 million right now. He is not going to want $4.1 million in 2024. And that is a legitimate question of are you going to be having three players? Because Gaudreau, you're going to want to sign Tkachuk. It's going to be long-term. You're signing Gaudreau, it's long-term. And Lindholm, that has to be long-term in an $8 to $10 million range.
That contract's going to be very, very interesting.
And I don't think people are talking enough about that. Like that, they're really not.
He will be 28 when he signs that contract. No, he'll be 29. He's 27 right now. He turns 28 in December. So yeah, he'll be 29 turning 30 for the start of that new contract. So that's going to be a very interesting contract, and what the Flames do with him. So as much as I see where you're coming from, Kev, it's where you at that point, it's where you feel he's at, and how long is that contract going to be?
Sure.
If he's 29 turning 30 to start that contract, I don't want long term at all.
But you're still gonna have to. You need to make it. My point there is you're going to have to make a decision between Lindholm, Gaudreau, and Tkachuk at that particular point. You will have to make some decisions there.
Which again, why I do wonder if that's where we get a 2-year deal for Matthew.
Okay, let me toss something at you here. This was tossed out before. And you've accused me of hot taking, or this. I'm just going to ask.
Trying to.
Okay. If you're New Jersey and you have the second pick, do you give it up for Matthew Tkachuk?
No. That's not what they need.
No, okay. Do you, if you're Seattle?
What are they picking, third?
Fourth? I
mean, yeah, Seattle needs to make a splash, but if I'm the Flames, I'm not taking just that.
No, I think you're asking for more.
Yeah. So yeah. It's yeah. I just look at it and go, I feel for Tkachuk there is a runway for a 2-year deal with him. Then you can make that decision on Lindholm. see where he's at, because that's a dangerous contract right there for Lindholm. Is a dangerous contract potentially. He's fantastic right now, but how we've seen players fall off real quick and once they reach 32, 33. And do you really want to be tied to him that long term? And then by that, but if you feel that way, then at that point you can maybe move on from. You've got the Kachuk thing to. You have cap space there. But also by then, the cap might be going up significantly too.
It's supposed to go up $1 million this year, $1 million next year, and we don't know after that. But I mean, touch wood, we're having fans in stands all across the NHL for the foreseeable future. But I mean, still some cautious optimism there, I guess. But now here's where I might be ridiculous. Just hear me out here. Considering the Flames' defensive point at this point in time, you've got Rasmus Andersson and Noah Hannafin. You've got an injured Chris Tanev we've already talked about. We don't know when he's going to be back or how he's going to be back. Nikita Zadorov is not coming back. Eric Branson played, admittedly, probably a little bit over his expectation last year. Yeah. Connor Mackey is there, but maybe not. Juuso Välimäki is an interesting question.
That is a massive question mark.
I think Oliver Shillington might be more of a priority than Andre Mangiapane.
Yep. I think you've got a little more depth on up front. So you've got Dubé who might be able to step up. You've got, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact they have Daryl there, I think there would be a chance that you could see a Peltier or a Peltier make a step up. There's Matthew Phillips had a really good season in the AHL. Is he ready to make the step? You got Adam Ruzicka, who got a cup of tea. Well, on the blue line, it was pretty much the same 6, 7, 8 guys.
Yep.
So, yeah, I look at that, and I think you might be right. I think it might be Shillington might be the more of a priority than Mangiapane at this point. Like he's probably the number 3.
Yeah, and then Mangiapane would be 4
behind the big 2.
Yeah. So I just think it's going to be it's an interesting offseason in Calgary again. I'll just say it. My bold prediction is I think by draft day we might be talking about a Mangiapane trade. I think that's very possible. Because I mean I do think the Flames need defensive help, and I don't think that they're going to get it at UFA. I mean, I don't think Josh Manson is going to be affordable. I don't think John Klingberg is going to be affordable. And you're going to have to find some defense somewhere. And I don't think the spare part theory that some people are bringing up there, I just don't think it's going to get it done. I think we're going to see a Mangiapane trade by July 7th. That's my bold prediction. I can't. It is bold. I won't say that it's not, because it is bold. But I can't get too. What am I trying to say here? The cold brains on still got me. Outraged? Here. You can't get Twitter outraged at me?
No, I can't. I can't find too much of a flaw in that, because I mean, yeah, if it's only November, then maybe. But again, how is Tanev going to be able to be the Tanev that the Flames need him to be? And we know he can't. He has been. I don't know if he can be going forwards. He's got a lot of wear and tear and miles on that body. He's been a warrior for the Canucks. He's been a warrior for the Flames. I love that. I love him as a hockey player. He's so doesn't get enough respect. But coming back from that injury, oh man, it's tough. So, I do expect good Branson to be back then.
Yeah. Well, that's a
but
2-year deal, isn't it?
Nope, he's a UFA.
Oh yeah, I do think he's coming back. I think they will bring him back. I don't think they're bringing back Zadorov, but I do think they're bringing back Branson.
Agreed. Because I think they want to have Mackey or Valimaki sort of step up into like the third pair role, or at least a 6-7 defenseman role there. So, and yeah, you're right. In terms of players that could step up and like they could sign to stopgap, it's not they're not very good options out there. Nothing that really like feels like it makes sense for the Flames other than just a hope and a prayer.
Yeah.
Because you said Manson's going to be Manson's going to get a bunch. Tampa's probably going to re-sign Jan Ruda now that McDonough's been traded. Klingberg's not going to be within their price range as well. If Letang hits the market, neither will he. Everyone else kind of just looks sort of this, just the same zebras, different stripes type deal.
Yeah. And I think the thing that has to come back to, you got to come back to, is how that Oiler defense explode, or that Oiler offense, and not just one guy, exposed how slow that Flames defense was. So that has to be a priority coming into this offseason here. So that's where kind of I'm at with the Flames at this particular point, but we'll see what happens there. Okay, maybe we haven't had a chance to get your perspective on Colorado. You thought I was a little harebrained, I think. Was that the word? You don't see it.
I think you galaxy brained it, I think, is what is the best way to put it, I think.
Okay, well, for those who didn't listen, this is my theory. I think Nichushkin, I think they're going to do all that they can to bring back Valerie. Colorado is going to do all that they can to bring back Nichushkin. I think that's a good fit. And I am not convinced. If I'm Nazem Kadri, this is the way that I'm looking at this. I don't think that you are going to go to another place and it's going to give you the same love, respect, and protection that the Colorado Avalanche did after everything that's happened. So I don't think he's going to find a better situation than what he has in Colorado. I really don't. If I'm Kadri, I think I got to make it my priority to try to sign in Denver. Now, I'm not saying that he takes a significant pay cut, but I looked at it and I suggested that the guy that might be on the move is Mikko Rantanen, who makes $9 million for a few years.
3 more years.
3 more years.
9.25 for 3 more.
You've got a guy and an upcoming player in Logan O'Connor that I think is going to be a stud in this league. You've got another guy in Alex Newhook that's going to be a stud in this league. And you are going to expect a lot more from Nichushkin if you're going to sign him to what I suspect would be $5 million, somewhere in there. It's how you fit all of this in there. I think that Rantanen might be a guy that you could get some depth for, but you disagree.
Well, I look at that, and first off, Colorado currently has just under $25.7 million in cap space for this season. They've got Lehkonen, who's an RFA with Arbrights, who needs a new deal. Nicholas Aube-Kubel needs a new deal so he can pay NHL to fix the cup.
Yeah. He's not playing with the Denver Broncos next year. That's for damn sure.
They need to figure out what they're doing in net. Darcy Kemper needs a new deal.
I think they're going to run with Francois and get a backup.
Yeah, but I think Sam Girard's going to be is going to get traded, and that'll give them $30 million in cap space, but they can earmark a little bit for the McKinnon extension for next year, but Eric Johnson comes off the cap as well. So you put those two, the 6.3 that McKinnon's making now and the 6 that Johnson's making now, put those together and you close to what you're gonna be paying McKinnon. So it's not like they're cap crunched. So which is why I don't think that they're in any rush to move a Mikko Rantanen, even though he didn't exactly light it up in the playoffs. But he was still a big part of the 25 points in 20 games. I just don't think he's saying he didn't light it up. I just look at that and I think they've got enough cap space that I don't think they don't need to move Rantanen.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I guess it depends on where, if you're Colorado, where you think you need to improve. There, where you see, I mean, I'm sure that if you're in that Colorado right now, as much as everyone is celebrating and you're not seeing weaknesses, it's possible that you still need to improve. I mean, you still got to deal with, you got Kemper, that issue. Some were not impressed with Kemper in the playoffs. Some were not impressed with Francois in the playoffs. The other, so it depends on what you need to improve. You've got some depth. You're in good shape. The other thing is, though, Colorado can. I don't think that this. I mean, we talk about win now modes. This could be. I'm not being absurd when I say this. This could be a 5 or 6 or 7 year lengthy run of Colorado dominating the league. They're in that kind of position right now where they're that deep. I mean, Cale Makar is going to be winning Norris's for a while. He is going to be winning Hart trophies as well. Sorry, Oiler fans, you're going to be outraged by that, but Cale Makar is going to win a Hart because, again, Cale Makar is the best hockey player in the world right now. And then you have another guy that if he's healthy, he's going to be in the Norris Trophy conversation, and that's Bowen Byram. So you've got 2 elite defensemen right now. You probably are going to get something pretty significant for a Samuel Girard because he's a damn good defenseman. They're in great shape to be competitive for a really long time.
They are. But that's again, I don't think they're in any rush to move a Rantanen. I think they'll move on from Burakovsky. The Logo O'Connors, the Alex Newhoots can step up into bigger roles. And I think they have room to re-sign a Kadri and a Chushkin, or just pick one of them and find find a cheaper option to replace the other one.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it's going to be interesting because, I mean, I don't see a weakness in Colorado right now, but I mean, I think if you're Colorado in that management group, you should be seeing a weakness and seeing where other people are and trying to figure that out. They don't have a first round pick this year. Not that that's a big deal for them. But you still, their teams are going to be gunning for you, and you got to keep it at. But yeah, Colorado. I just think Colorado is in great shape, really, for a long time right now.
Well, hey, Chris.
Well, look at
How's
this.
it going, guys? Sorry for being late.
All good. You just pulled a Devin.
Yep. Speaking of Devin, where are you, Devin? We miss you.
He's in Berlin, Germany.
Devin's doing Europe.
Which means I'm even more jealous because that's where I'm supposed to be doing my honeymoon.
Yeah. All right. Lucas has an interesting comment here with talking about the Flames bringing their AHL team to Calgary. Will the Hitmen move out of the Saddledome to make room for the Calgary AHL team? Or will they have their own building? I'm wondering if the Hitmen have been split in time between the Dome and another arena here locally. And I wonder if the AHL team will do something similar, or the other one where I think might be a good spot for them would be up at COP, the Mark McPhail complex there. They've got a decent sized seating and everything there. So I think that's an option there. And Lucas, it is a little bit weird that they haven't really announced the any logistics on where they're playing, but I think they're still trying to figure all of that out, because they're not going to have whatever the AHL team's name is going to be, the Hitmen, the Roughnecks, and the Flames, all under the Calgary Sports Entertainment Corporation, and needing a place to play. And currently, the three that were in town were all playing out of the Dome, at least for the most part.
Now, the other place is possible, and Dan brought this up when he was on the podcast, is the idea of trying to refurbish Max Bell.
I'd love that.
And it is close to the train station, so it is transit accessible, as opposed to, I don't think the other two arenas are that transit accessible.
No.
Especially...
at least not by train.
Yeah. Especially when it gets 20 below in Calgary. In the winter there. So I mean, I think there are some options. I'm not surprised we haven't heard anything yet, because they just seems to be really slow. We haven't heard the nickname yet either, so I'm sure that all of that is going to happen. But as far as the AHL team, I'm assuming they're going to have to play at the Saddle Dome. I don't think that there's anywhere else that is AHL ready in Calgary.
Well, I think the Mark McPhail complex is AHL ready.
When you say Mark McPhail, is that what most people would know as Winsport?
Yes.
Okay.
Winsport.
Ooh.
They can it's definitely up to snuff there.
I mean, that's where the men's national team tends to do their like training camp stuff, right?
Yeah.
What are the arenas at Lake at St. or UC? What's going on there?
UFC's, they just got the arenas in the St. one. No, I don't think so. UFC's doesn't have the right setup.
Okay.
They still have just the two arenas inside the Oval, as far as I know.
Yeah. And as far as the State one, I think it's actually encompassed in a building that just got shut down. Was it not?
Might have been too, yeah.
Yeah, I think the campus center building at SAID is going to be, I'm not sure if it's going to be demoed or just totally taken down to bare bones, but I know that, it's no longer going to, like, the Gateway got shut down, and I'm not sure what's going down.
Wow, really, the Gateway got shut. That's historic, because there was a lot of concerts that went through the Gateway.
And then,
my last concert pre-pandemic was at the Gateway.
Yeah. And then, the Mount Royal plays out of, I think they play out of the Calgary Flames community arenas. And that's not AHL. That's not up to AHL. I think the options are long-term refurbish Max Bell, which would be awesome. Oh, and short-term Dome / Winsport. I think are the big options there.
Yeah. Yeah, there needs to be, in general, this is how I'll say it, with diplomacy. There needs to be a refurbishing of a number of sports buildings in Calgary, including a certain football stadium that a certain CFL team plays at.
That's our dump, Kevin, and we love it.
Yeah,
it definitely needs a lot of work. And I love McMahon, but it's way behind the times. It makes the Saddle Dome look high tech.
I mean, if Calgary Next actually happened, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But because of the site that they chose, it got totally thrown out and went back to square one.
We in Calgary definitely need another sort of mid-range arena. And that's when we were voting on the Olympics, I was really hoping for that, because that was going to be part of the infrastructure that was going to be built. And that would have been perfect again. But they'll have, if it's at Winsport, they're going to have to do some sort of shuttle bus system like the Calgary Cavalry do.
Yeah. But I mean, at least with the Cavalry, it's not 20 below when the Cavalry are playing.
Well,
The
most
shuttle
of the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on the
Yeah, they're not exactly in control of that, but for the most part, they tend to not play in wintertime. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to sit outside in a 20 below waiting for a shuttle bus, go to and fro, but who knows?
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah. Do we want to jump on down that Chris is here? Do we want to get into the Canucks conversation now?
Sure, why not? Let's
Okay.
go.
So Patrick Alvin was not aware that July 1st is Canada Day and a holiday. So they went to work. And did they go to work here? I do believe actually it's a holiday though in Sweden. Let me see. Let me just quickly check. I just want to make sure. Hold on. July 1st. No, there's no holiday. So there's no holiday in Sweden. That means no holiday for Canucks. We do work. And the big work that they did, and there's a number of things, but let's start with the big one. Brock Boeser signed an extension. It is 3 years with $6.65 million a year. There was some quiet concern about what was going on here because we didn't hear anything. I think that's in part because I think there is a focus on one other player right now, which we'll touch on a second here. But just from my perspective, I feel like this is a win-win for both sides. It's not a huge raise for Brock Boeser, but it is a raise. And this is, I think everything that went on with Boeser, I think staying in Vancouver after everyone tossed a bunch of suggestions out there. I think he wanted to stay in Vancouver. I think it was a tough year for him. I think that this is a good value contract for Boeser for the Vancouver Canucks. And I think this is going to be I think Boeser's going to have a good year. I think it's, I think this is win-win. I don't see a real true negative for this one for the Canucks going forward, but maybe I'm missing something.
I mean, I agree with you there, Kev. I would argue that another reason why we didn't hear many rumblings about this ahead of time is because now that the Benning regime is no longer in charge, there's not organizational leaks anymore.
I think they have locked down a lot, which is why we've heard so much sort of more scuttlebutt and just media trying to figure out what's going on as opposed to reporting on what.
Sorry, all the
leaks.
Creator journalists.
There was also that deadline there, and I think Brock. With this contract, it's apparent that Brock wanted to stay, and he knew that the 7.5 wasn't going to work, and he knew that.
Then he probably
wants the 3-year deal
more than 1 year.
Yeah, the 3-year deal is good because he was 2 years. He was 2 years away from UFA, so they got 1 year out of that from him, and it just makes. I think it makes sense for both sides. It just, yeah, it's one of those ones where I think us as Canucks fans after the Benning regime were like, oh. We don't know how to react to what feels like a really good win.
This is an intelligent hockey move.
Here somewhere.
There's something wrong. This is an intelligent hockey move. I don't get it.
So, yeah, I think it's a very good move, and I think we haven't seen the best of Brock yet.
And hopefully with the to put it, eloquently as possible, with the distractions out of the way, hopefully he'll have a hell of a season this next year and can, maybe be more, I guess, present and focused.
Yep. This connects two other things. So first of all, I want to take a little bit of a leeway here, and it doesn't connect with Boeser specifically, but it connects with something else. There was a trade, I think probably the first significant off-season trade happened on So Friday was the first Thursday. We had the Kevin Fiala trade from Minnesota to Los Angeles for another Brock from Minnesota, University of Minnesota captain Brock Faber, and the 19th pick in the draft. And so this doesn't connect with Brock Boeser per se, but it does connect with JT Miller. So maybe let's do this. In terms of just the overall package of what the Kevin Fiala trade got for Minnesota, did they get enough for Fiala? Was that a good price?
Ultimately, I think for what Fiala has shown as far as like long-term consistency in his career, I would say that they got a fair deal for what he's worth. But I would say that if we're comparing that to a potential JT Miller deal, that the Canucks are looking for one additional piece on top of what Minnesota got back.
The thing with Fiala is he's a solid player, but he had one hell of a career year. His career high in points before this was 54 in 64 games in the 2019-20 season.
And he jumped up to like mid 80s?
85. He had 40 and 50 last season, which is a step up, but he took an astronomical leap into here. And whether or not this is where he stays at, or if he takes a step back, which it's easy to say that he probably will. I think he's more of a 60, 70 point guy than a point per game guy. But yeah, I think if we're gonna compare to what the Canucks are looking for, the Canucks are definitely looking for one more piece on top of that for a JT Miller.
Yeah. Okay. So hear me out here. I don't think I'm being ridiculous. I think going in, I was a little surprised by the conversation around comparing Kevin Fiala to JT Miller, because I think going into this, like if you're looking at this Fiala price as a JT Miller price in comparison, I don't think it's a fair comparison, because I think that you should expect more for JT Miller than Kevin Fiala. If you're trading Connor Garland, I think that this is that's more of a fair comparable. They're both similar ages. And, traditionally Fiala has been a 20-goal scorer, as has been Connor Garland, except Fiala had a career year. Connor Garland didn't. So I think this is more of a Connor Garland price than it would be a JT Miller price, because Miller got 100 points, or 99 points, sorry, and Fiala got 85 points. So I think already that you should be expecting more for JT Miller already coming into this than Kevin Fiala. I don't think, like, if you got this for JT, if this was Brock Faber in the first round pick, I don't think it's nearly enough for JT Miller. Not in my mind.
No, but I think it's part of the building the picture of what a deal might look like or will look like, because I do think I do think it's almost a foregone conclusion that JT Miller will be traded.
Yeah,
unless he's willing to sign a 3 to 4 year deal at a. Honestly, even if the price is $8.5-9 million, if it's a 3 to 4 year deal, I think the Canucks would sign it. But I think he wants long term, which is the issue.
He wants a contract that he can ride into retirement.
Exactly, but that doesn't fit where the Canucks are at right now. But yeah, the one thing that Kevin Fiala has on Miller is his age. JT Miller is 29. He'll be 30 when he signs when that new contract kicks in, which is again why it's such a dangerous contract. Again, harkening back to my comments about the Flames with Elias Lindholm, and then as opposed to Kevin Fiala, who is he's 25 and they signed him to a deal. So it makes a lot more sense in that for a team. But if you're in win now mode for a team, JT Miller is you're not going to find anyone too much better than him right now that's available.
Outside of maybe a Kadri.
I would take Miller over Kadri. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble by someone, but I would honestly.
No, I mean, it all comes down to like the acquisition price, right? Because Kadri is a UFA, and all you have to do is sign him. But his contract's going to be big. You've got one more year of Miller at his cap hit, his current cap hit, which is very palatable.
Which is, if I recall, 5.125.
It's in the fives, yeah.
Miller's 29, Kadri's 32. Miller, so that's one advantage and there. I love, don't get me wrong, I think Kadri has made some huge steps, but I just would, it's not like when I say that, it's not like I think Kadri sucks. I just, like, if I was in a draft and I'm building a team and it's between Miller and Kadri and I had to pick, I would take Miller at this point over Kadri. I think there's a little bit more versatility there. With Kadri, I don't see it as much. That's my personal opinion.
And a bit less of a history too, as far as like questionable plays and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So
but then again, all those people can kiss his ass.
But
how does that not become a shirt? It was
good question.
Too many men.
How did that not become a parade T-shirt?
Yeah, too many men became a parade shirt.
Well, that's because Kadri made it.
Yeah.
He chose to go that way.
He should have went kiss my ass.
So maybe because he did a graphic with it too, so maybe he just didn't want to get into questionable territory.
He's in UFA mode. That's fair. I mean, am I insane with that pick? I don't think I'm saying anything too out of turn. It's a personal preference, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
But it would be Miller at a cheaper rate for one season with whatever you have to give up to get him versus Kadri at a more expensive, but he's older contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this is where I was leading to anyway, is what's next for JT Miller. And I think that I don't want to say it spells the end for JT Miller, but I don't, what I do think is I agree with you. I don't think Vancouver wants to go long-term with JT Miller at this point at the rate that he wants. I think he wants, if it was shorter, then maybe. And I think that you can get a pretty good haul, I think, you will get a pretty good haul from JT Miller. And I think it would be more than what that reported deal was from the Rangers, actually, which was Philip Cheadle, a defenseman, and someone else. It was another prospect in that.
It was Niels Lundqvist, Philip Cheadle, and a first, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right as far as my memory goes.
Yeah. Listen to me. If the Rangers are in this, Brennan Othmann has to be part of this deal. I'm sorry, you're not getting JT Miller without giving me Brennan Othmann. I'm telling you that right now. I am insistent on getting Brennan Othmann.
What about my boy Schneider?
He's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. He is not.
I know it's
anywhere.
a pipe dream, but damn it,
that was too. If you traded Miller last year, that would have been a heck of a pickup. But unfortunately, now that Schneider's taken the steps that he has, that's tough. Yeah, I would be insistent on getting Brennan Othmann into this lineup. I'm a big Brennan Othmann fan, and I think that's a guy that I know his skating, some are questioning his skating, but that's a guy I think the Canucks should be insistent on picking up. But Washington also has some interesting pieces there as well. Vincent Iorio would be a good pickup. Connor McMichael, I think, could do what was expected that Jason Dickinson would do, but didn't work out. I think Connor McMichael could fit that role. There's some options there as well, but maybe I'll make my second bold prediction. Are you ready? Ready? Everyone ready?
I'm braced. I'm ready.
I think Miller's gone on the 7th. I think he's
that's draft day?
Yep.
I mean, I don't think it's an unreasonable take.
I think it's a draft day deal. I think it happens.
Oh, totally.
And if I'm assuming Bettman is out of isolation at this point, so guess what? We have a trade to announce.
Oh, I've missed the booing of Gary Bettman. We haven't booed Bettman in a long time.
I mean, there was a slightly delayed boo after Daly said that Bettman couldn't make it.
Yeah.
That's about the closest that it got, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it happens. I think that I think the Canucks are going to make a fairly significant splash. I think they'll make that JT Miller one. And I think some teams are going to want to get ahead of that Kadri and the one other free agent center that's out there right now, Evgeny Malkin. And I think they're going to want to get ahead of that and see what they can do. So
Basically set the market instead of follow it.
Yeah.
Well, that as at 5.25, he's going to be significantly cheaper than both of them.
Yeah.
At least for one season.
Yeah. If I'm wrong, Chris said it, by the way. So there.
Oh, wow.
I'm just kidding. The other thing that we happened here in terms of player assignment is Jack Rathbone was signed to a one-way deal. And this feels like they want Rathbone to make that big step into the NHL. And I think it sounds like they want some competition. I still wonder if he could use another year in Abbotsford, but it sounds like they feel he's ready there. So that's an interesting step, which means there's going to be some competition on that left side of defense anyway, unless you're moving someone to the right side.
I was actually kind of wondering, like, maybe I'm reading the tea leaves wrong, but to me, if they're signing him to a one-way contract, maybe they're planning on moving out a defenseman and not necessarily replacing said defenseman.
No, what I think is going to happen is that we're going to see one of Oliver Ekman-Larsson or Travis Dermott move over to the right side.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of the penciled in plan at this point. But Rathbone is still waivers exempt. So it doesn't matter that he's on a one-way deal. He can still go down to the AHL without going through waivers. So it's not like he's Canucks are kind of forced into keeping him at start of camp. He still has to play his way in, which is good. But what I like about this deal is it's a 2-year deal. So if he is able to hit and pop and become an everyday player in the NHL this season, even if it takes him half the season to get there, they still have him at $850 next season as well.
Yep. Yeah, and then the other two signings were Noah Juleson and Will Lockwood. They were signed to 2-way deals. I still think Lockwood's going to get a good look at training camp. I think him and Matthew Highmar are going to battle for a spot. I don't think Will Lockwood has had a really... I thought he played pretty well down the stretch. I also like Matthew Highmar. I think both are good players. And I think both will compete for a spot. I think Will Lockwood... I'm kind of pulling for Lockwood. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Lockwood up most of the year than he up in Vancouver more than he is in Abbotsford.
They're definitely both auditioning for that like bottom 6 crash and banger role for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. You look at the vibe I'm getting from the management team is they want speed, and I think the bottom 6 is going to see a significant retooling this offseason. They brought in Kuzmenko. I still think we're going to see a couple of those middle 6 players being moved out here. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the fourth line does end up becoming a Highmore, Lockwood, Lamico trio. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is if they do end up making some moves here, and the fourth line is Lockwood has to work his way in as well. So there's a path for him to make the team, but with this contract, it's not there's no guarantee.
I know this is a little off topic from the initial question, but I kind of wonder if Kuzmenko and Podkolzin have a chance of being line mates next season.
Maybe. I'm not
considering the fact that they both kind of can lean on each other as far as learning English and getting used to North America and all that sort of stuff.
They used to be teammates as well.
They both were on the same SKA Moscow, right?
St. Petersburg.
Oh, St. Petersburg. Sorry.
But yeah, potentially. I think that might be an option, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good feeling either way because I don't know exactly what this. I'll have a better idea after the draft and after the first couple days of free agency when we see the big moves that this management team is going to make. Because I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tanner Pearson traded, Jason Dickinson. I don't know what they're going to do with him.
Some suggestion that's a buyout option.
I'm not sure it really is.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we really need another piece of like dead salary on our cap hit?
They get some decent savings off of it. Especially in the year after the second year, like I think you either if you can find a trade, a trade partner for him, that's ideal. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if they stick with him and see if he continues on. If he can be the player that they thought they were getting, and if not, then it becomes very palatable for a buyout because. The savings, if they buy him out after next season, is just over 2.25, and then they only have 1 year at just under $1 million. So, but I think they want to clean up that as much as possible. So I don't know if they're really going to be looking at buyouts this year.
Yeah, because we're already taking on the Holtby buyout and the Halak performance overage. Like, there's a bunch of dead cap that we already took on now that Luongo's off the book. So, yeah, I imagine they're going to especially try and minimize all that dead cap.
Yeah, they've got 1.9 for Braden Holtby and $500K for Jake Virtanen on the books this year. After that, there's nothing. So I don't know if they really want to
extend that along.
To add. So.
Yeah, just some people are talking about that. I'm not sure. I still think Dickinson, in terms of Dickinson, I still think he has something to give in a bottom six role. I think he had some expectations coming into the season. It didn't work out, but I still think there's some value to what he can bring. Last year was a bit of a mess for him, but I don't like. If you can get something good for him, sure, then trade him. But I don't know if I would. I don't know if I'd buy him out this year. Like, even if you didn't have the cap dead end space that you're dealing with right now, I don't know. I think he deserves another second look at least at the start of the year, and maybe if not, he's a trade option during the season. But I think there still could be something there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, behind the bench, because they filled up all the management seats on the SkyTrain. Now there's the coaching to fill out here as well. So Mike Yo's in as former head coach in several places, last in Philadelphia. And Trent Call has been promoted from Abbotsford to the team. So Mike Yo has been a target for a while. That means Jeremy Colleton, former Chicago Blackhawk head coach, is now the head coach in Abbotsford. So the coaching, coaching changes as well. It was a busy day for Patrick Allvin and staff.
And it was. I heard rumblings that maybe Bradshaw would want to join in his friend John Tortorella in Philly. So I was wondering what was going on there. But Yo coming in is a good ad. Bumping up Trent Cull, I think, is a smart move. There was always that question about whether or not the player development was good enough in the AHL. And now you have a fresh start. So Jeremy Colleton showed that he can. He was able to get a lot of the younger players in Chicago, but he didn't have much to work with there. I think the Jeremy Colleton hire is underratedly really good to reset, not only to reset the Abbotsford Canucks, but to maybe kick up the player development a little bit more.
Can I speak to the player development conversation here?
Sure.
A little bit, because I think what this tells me with Trent Cull is the reports of the player development issues in Vancouver were greatly exaggerated. You don't promote a guy that's not doing player development, his job well. You promoted him. They obviously saw what they saw in Trent Cull, and they put him as an assistant coach in the National Hockey League. So this is what we call a promotion. So I think that a lot of sometimes with the media here in Vancouver, you have to be careful with what you're hearing. And the Abbotsford Canucks don't get a lot of TV coverage here. And I don't think it was a fair comment to Trent Cull that there was issues in player development. If there were comments of player development issues with Trent Cull, he wouldn't be in the organization, and he wouldn't have been promoted to the assistant coach of the Vancouver Canucks. So they obviously see something in him.
Well, yeah, I think it's more this. There was a question about it, they've stated it. It hasn't been good enough. And you look at the track record, and maybe that was them pulling players up too quickly, and maybe this is a more complicated discussion. But what this does is it resets it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying that they don't like Cull, because they do. They promoted him to an assistant coach in the NHL, but I think maybe they feel he fits that role better than as the head coach in a more developmental league. There's also that. More of a diagonal move as opposed to a direct vertical move.
Yeah. Well, I think also under previous regime, there was an expectation that these players would come in and play right away. And there wasn't really development. There wasn't a development plan before. And I don't think that that's on Trent Cull. That's on previous management. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I feel like a lot of people were pointing the finger at Trent Cull when I feel like the finger should have been pointed at the previous regime that was running this organization.
Most definitely. He was just basically a scapegoat for the people that claimed that the player development was not good in Abbotsford. He was just the easy person you could point a finger at.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. And then, so that's pretty much, is there anything else with the Canucks that we need to get into? A pretty lengthy day of Canucks news on the first.
I guess the only question I would bring up is, with all the new hires and with the people that were previously already part of the organization and were kept, who becomes the eye in the sky? With Yeo and Cull getting promotions, does that mean that because King is kind of the least known name out of that group is likely going to be the guy that's up in the press box as opposed to down on the bench?
From what I've heard is that Jason King is going to continue working with forwards and power play. Trent Cull's taking over the defense and penalty kill. And then Yo is going to be more of a broader overall look of things. I don't know if they're going to have an eye in the sky coach like they've had in the past.
So you think they're going to have all four guys on the bench? That'll be a little bit crowded.
There's a lot of teams that have done that.
Well, there's a lot of teams using an iPad and checking replays and watching things on the iPad now anyway. So I don't know if the eye in the sky is a necessity at this point.
I think Dylan Crawford, I think, might be that quote unquote eye in the sky as the video coach.
They brought him in specifically for that role. I understand. So,
also cool shout out in the fact that he's Mark Crawford, Crow's son.
Yes.
So bringing the Crawfords back into the organization.
Yes. Now, I guess the only other thing, maybe Sean, I know you mentioned off air, you didn't get a chance, or mentioned on air, you didn't get a chance to talk about the Sedins and Luongo getting into the Hall of Fame. So maybe we need to get to that.
It just adds fire to what do you do with Luongo? Are you retiring to number one, or is he joining Kirk McLean, who also wore number one in the Ring of Honor? That debate's going to rage on for a while, and the Sedins are just class acts. I remember seeing people like. One thing I am quite happy about is Alfie's going in as well.
Yeah,
Senators fans beforehand were starting to get a little salty. But the Sedins at their peak were two of the best players of that era. They were outscoring Crosby and Ovechkin when they were at their peak. So let alone this is the Hockey Hall of Fame, not the NHL Hall of Fame. So you also got to throw in there everything else,
all their international play.
Yeah. So it's one hell of a Hall of Fame class. Just fucking put Alex McGillney in at some point here, please. He deserves it.
Yeah, there's still some people missing, and there were some women missing in this as well. I still like McGillney and Brendan Moore. I think are two males that need to be in the Hall of Fame. And Jen Botterill, Cassie Campbell. There were a number of women that should deserve that too as well. So they still got some work to do in the Hall of Fame to get caught up. It was a good class, but there's still some people missing. This is one Hall of Fame where I would say I didn't have a problem with anybody they put in, but they are still missing people.
You're always going to have that with some of the questionable decisions they've made in the past.
Yeah.
I want to add that a ridiculous hot take I heard this week was from Don Taylor, and he was claiming that if you're going to put Luongo's number in the rafters, that you have to bring McLean's up there with it. That you need to promote him from the Ring of Honor up to the rafters. And while I understand his reverence for McLean and what McLean brought for that 94 run and all the good press and the good face that he brings to the franchise, he just doesn't have the numbers to deserve having his number retired like Luongo does.
Yeah.
We got to have that Roberto Luongo versus Mika Kiprusoff debate at some point in this offseason too, by the way. We were planning on doing that.
One's a Hall of Famer.
Both are Hall of Famers. Kipper's in the Hall of Fame too.
Are you claiming he's going to be, or he already has been?
Mika's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh.
Well, that's ridiculous if he's not. Come on.
I'll hear your argument if you say he's worthy of the Hall of Fame, but I'm pretty damn confident that he's not inducted.
No.
Are you kidding me? He was in the finish. That's ridiculous. Mika Kiprusoff is not in the Hockey Hall of Fame? I thought he was. I just thought, that Mika's in the Hall of Fame. That's ridiculous. How is he not in the Hall of Fame?
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I guess the only thing I will say, and not that I agree with it, but historically, goalies have had a much more difficult time getting into the Hall of Fame than any other position.
That's true. I honestly thought he was in the Hall of Fame.
You basically have to be like a all-time great to make it to the Hall of Fame, like unquestionably so. Not like over 1,000 points as a forward sort of benchmark, but like basically, if you're not in like the conversation of like top 10 goalies of all time, good luck getting into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to save that for another time. I honestly thought Kiprusoff was in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Finnish Hockey Hall of Fame.
He needed to do better in his 2 seasons with the Kentucky Thoroughblades.
Yeah. Jerk.
Which I now need to find that jersey.
Yeah.
I mean, just based off of that name, that sounds like a super fun idea for a jersey. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll save that. Do we want to go to the player issues in the NHL, or do we want to go through the coaching carousel?
To the coaching carousel we go. Around and around we go.
Yeah, so we have Derek Lalonde from Tampa Bay to Detroit. Jim Montgomery from St. Louis to Boston, which incidentally, Craig McTavish, now an assistant coach in St. Louis, replacing Jim Montgomery, who had now have Peter Chiarelli, Craig McTavish, and one other former Oiler in that organization. Paul Maurice went to Florida. Rick Bowness went to Winnipeg. And in the most disastrous move of this entire offseason, after over 2 months of a GM and a head coach search, and after pretty much everyone has hired a head coach in the National Hockey League, the San Jose Sharks thought July 1st would be the right day to fire Bob Bugner and the San Jose staff because they felt that the new general manager would want to bring in a new head coach. My God, the stupidity of that move.
Yeah,
Dumbest,
horrible timing.
like that is that organized that I think the San Jose Sharks are going to be in the competition for the Connor Bedard sweepstakes next year. Sorry, San Jose Shark fans out there. But that just, to me, like, and you, not only that, now you put yourself in a position where you are not even getting the pick of the litter of the crop for a head coaching for yourself because everyone else is hired.
I would hope that was more of a knee-jerk decision, because if you planned that really shows incompetence. But even as a knee-jerk reaction, that's still questionable as shit.
This is just horrible timing, and San Jose's an absolute mess with the cap.
2 of the most expensive defensemen in the league that basically serve the exact same purpose.
Well, when your defense, you have 3 defensemen making like almost a third of your cap. Like it's.
Who's the third expensive one?
Well, you got Vlasic is making $7 million, and he's still signed for another 4 years.
Oh, geez.
Brent Burns has the most palatable contract of the 3 at $8 million for another 3.
Yeah, that is. Oh, it is.
And they could still get hit by the Evander Kane issue too.
Yep. That is, yeah, because that could end up. I mean, I'm no lawyer, so for sure, but at all, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could rule that Evander Kane still is a San Jose Shark.
If that is the case and that's how they decided, though, how did they allow him to become an Oiler?
It's because they punted it down and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah,
sure, but to me, if that's the case, shouldn't the player have to, quote unquote, be punished by having to sit in limbo and not be able to play during that period of time? To me, that makes a lot more sense if that's what your rationale is.
I hated that whole Evander Kane situation. I hated that I don't think he's paid enough for what happened. I don't care how many goals he scored. I feel queasy even bringing up the name of Evander Kane. I'm still not comfortable having a conversation about him. I don't think that this was dealt with near good enough. from a hockey perspective, and that's just for me. But and from a legal perspective, I don't know what the decision's going to be about Evander Kane, and I think this is a really complicated situation. And yeah,
I thought they had already basically agreed that he was a free agent. That's why he was able to go to the Oilers. It was just whether the fact that the Sharks would have to compensate him for basically the act that they did.
Yeah, and that's what I believe that the settlement is, and they're not going to have that settlement done by unrestricted free agency. So Kane could, in theory, sign another contract, be on another team, and
then have it nullified.
Yep.
It'll be intriguing, that's for sure.
It won't get nullified because I think what will happen is they'll settle it. They'll say, okay, you buy him out, and then the Sharks will get stuck with cap.
Yeah.
Essentially, it'll be like almost as if you had traded him with retention. Sort of idea. Yeah.
And then next year, Timo Meier's qualifying offer is $10 million. He was part of that same RFA class as Boeser before they changed the qualifying offer rules. So yeah, his qualifying offer will be $10 million next year.
Well, they got draft picks. They got draft picks coming. They've got lots of draft picks. So,
well, they'll need more.
Yeah, yeah, and they got Thomas Hertl at 28 for 8 more years.
And Logan Couture signed for another 5 years, and he's 33.
Yeah,
Couture's 33 already. Wow, where has the time gone?
Yeah,
That's the other thing. Like, Carlson's 32, Burns is 37, Vlasic's 35. They're in
like some of those names. I was used to them being in the older age class, but I did not realize Couture was that close to Crosby and OV in age.
Yeah,
I had always in as far as my memory and whatnot, I had always kind of classified him in like the same age range as like JT Miller ish, like if he's not already 30, maybe 31.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I was completely off base there.
Yeah, it's that's a messy situation in San Jose for sure. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. They've got a serious rebuild in front of them. They've been a solid organization for a number of years, but this is, they have to be in a rebuild mode for a long, long time.
Going back to the general coaching carousel, though, I thought Bones was retiring.
I really like that hire in Winnipeg, though. I think that Boeser, he's been there before. He knows that organization.
Is that where he was before he kind of got promoted to assistant in Vancouver?
No, Bones has been around for a long time.
I know he's been around for a long time. For some reason, I thought he may have been, if not Winnipeg, maybe the Moose before coming up. I don't know. Because he hasn't been in the NHL the entire time, right? Was he at the AHL level for a certain amount of those, like 25 or so years?
He played with the Jets for a couple seasons, transitioned into and then went down to the AHL, finishes his playing career there, transitioned to a player coach, then then moved up to an assistant coach with the Jets, and then head coach. This is still in the 80s, by the way.
Never mind 90s, still the 80s.
Yeah. He has not been with this organization before.
That's true.
But he's been in the Winnipeg market a couple of times. He was the head coach there for half a season, and then he was an assistant coach and head coach with the Phoenix Coyotes for a few years.
Yeah, I don't think he's he's I mean, you were trying to get Barry Trotz. You offered him free beer. It didn't work.
More than just free beer. Like there was multiple
Everything.
offers.
He wouldn't have to buy a damn thing if he had decided to go to Winnipeg.
Yeah. I have a smart ass comment. I'll just leave it. I think he's gonna. I think he will. I mean, he knows the league. I think he's got enough respect there. I think he can keep Winnipeg competitive. I just think Winnipeg's in a very interesting spot. I mean, they've got some hard decisions to make about Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele, Pierre-Luc Dubois. They could be making a splash during the draft here. Got some, yeah. That could be a massive trade there too. So that there's lots that are going there. It's going to be a bit of a different team in Winnipeg, and
I have a feeling that that's part of the reason why maybe like. Basically, if Trotz was going to coach the season, it was going to be in Winnipeg. But I feel like because of the instability question marks in Winnipeg this next season, I feel like that probably played a fairly significant factor into why he ultimately decided, no, I'm going to concentrate on my family. I'm not going to take an NHL job this season and basically just see where the cards fall after that. But yeah, I think a lot of that played into the fact of the question marks around Scheifele and PLD and Wheeler.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then and then you got Lalonde in Detroit for the Yzerman connection there.
I was going to say probably the least surprising one of them all, as far as just the fact that he went from Tampa to Detroit.
Probably the surprise out of all of this was Maurice to Florida, because I guess you didn't expect a Jack Adams coaching candidate to be out of a job, and B, you didn't expect Paul Maurice to return. But I think that Paul Maurice brings some more experience, and I think ultimately they looked at 2 straight losses to Tampa Bay in playoff rounds that they wanted a coach with some experience, and they think Maurice brings it.
It probably hired Hugh because of the sort of taskmaster, more hard ass style coaching thing. And I feel like Maurice is kind of cut from that same cloth. You guys can correct me if you feel I'm wrong, but I feel like he kind of is more that hard ass style, whereas Brunette maybe was more of the players coach style.
I think Maurice is a players coach. I don't feel like Maurice has been known to be a taskmaster.
Okay, and like I said, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I feel like you guys have more of the technical knowledge, whereas I'm coming more from like a bird's eye view.
I would say Maurice is a good hybrid. He knows when to push buttons and when not to. But
maybe in like a Cooper sort of style where like he's a player's coach. Yeah, but also knows when to push hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very, very well spoken, very well very well spoken, and just I feel like he thinks things through before he says and does anything.
A thinking coach post-game press conference.
Yeah, he's
kind of in the same way as Cooper did after his fake post-mortem after Game 5 or Game 4.
Game 4,
yeah. I think he brings a level of intelligence. I think he likes offense. Skilled players seem to thrive under him. And Florida has a lot of skill. They have a lot of other questions, but they have a lot of skill. I think this is I think this is one of those where you don't like how this was handled, but ultimately still was a good hire. I feel for Andrew Burnett because but hopefully I think Andrew Burnett will land on his feet somewhere. I do think it's a good hire though.
When you guys do me a solid and bring up Dylan's most recent comment?
Oh, which one?
The last one. So I'm not sure if you were listening earlier, Dylan, but I came in late. I'm pulling a Devin tonight.
Yeah, he is Devin.
I'm essentially a substitute Devin right now.
Except you're a Chris.
Substitute Devin with less hair.
Yeah.
More hair on top, less hair on the face.
Yeah. What I have here, I don't have here.
Yeah, I think ultimately, yeah, that's a good hire. I think Lalonde to Detroit. I mean, Yzerman knows him pretty well. Montgomery to Boston. I think those are two hires. I think we'll have to wait and see. I mean, obviously with Boston, the big question will be what happens with Bergeron. The big question in Detroit, are they going all in? Are they making a push, or are they waiting, or what are they doing? I think they're going to have a very interesting offseason in Detroit. When you got
I'm almost willing to call that what LA did this past season is what Detroit wants to do this upcoming season. Take a big step forward, but maybe not be quite playoff worthy.
I think they're going to be a little more patient. I think they still don't have their long-term solution in net there yet.
Nope.
They don't have the depth that LA's has, and they don't have the veteran insulation that LA has.
That's fair. Yeah.
And they don't have that depth at forward yet. At center, sorry, not at forward, center. Like they have Dylan Larkin, and I really like Dylan Larkin, but yeah, I don't know if you're bringing in. I don't know if it's wise to bring in a 32-year-old Nazem Kadri to spell him when you have the potential to get a pretty high 2023 first round pick, either that being Connor Bedard or another prospect. It might be best for them to wait 1 year and then put their chips in when, after the 2023 draft. It's kind of my thinking.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah, and they're even at picking 8, they still got an opportunity to get a good player. And even on the blue line, they still don't have quite the depth that they need. Ronek's a good player. We all know how good Moritz Seider is.
Yes.
But after that, it's still a lot. There's still a lot to be. They don't really have much.
Yeah. Now that you guys have kind of, laid out your guys' points as far as why I was kind of incorrect. Yeah. Yzerman is definitely much more of a long-term chess player. So, yeah, I kind of take back what I said. Detroit is probably more so playing the long game and trying to build a more sustainable approach.
They do see what happens with Simon Edvinsson this year. Donovan Sabrango is going to be stepping up into the pros. So we'll see what happens there. But other than that, even up front, they need to gather some more darts and hope that they can hit them.
Yeah. And this draft overall, this draft class is not. There are some good players, there are some good pieces, but it's not considered an awesome draft. So I think if I'm Detroit, I'm not doing the LA King. I'm just saying what I would do. If I'm Steve Yzerman, I'd wait based on everything, looking at the draft and everything out there. I don't think that this is the time to be spending the money.
If you can find a good fit, a younger UFA that might fit longer term, I think that wouldn't be a bad thing to do. But I still think they need to be adding more options there, and looking that way. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see them making a big move where they move a forward for a defenseman, because I wouldn't be surprised if we see Yzerman trying to build back end out.
Yep.
Build around Moritz Seider and Philip Ronek.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. They've got some options to get that foundation going, but yeah. Anything else on the coaching part? I don't think we. No.
No, I think the big ones, as you said, the what happens with Boston comes down to a lot of what happens with Bergeron and how quickly players like Charlie McAvoy and Brad Marchand can come back from their long-term injuries.
Yeah. Okay, so then there was a trade today. The Tampa Bay Lightning have traded Ryan McDonagh, long-time Tampa Bay Lightning. He was part of the JT Miller trade to Tampa years ago. Actually, he was
the main piece.
He was the main piece. It's hard to believe he was the main piece in that trade, but he was traded to Nashville for Philip Myers, a guy named, I believe, Gabriel Mismash. Went back the other way, a forward from Nashville. I don't think that this is ultimately a guy Tampa wanted to trade, but cap being what it is, you needed to trade. I think Tampa I think Tampa will miss him. I think Nashville will get something for. I think Nashville's trying to push in a bit. I think McDonagh brings in some stability there. I think it will be a good 4 option behind Roman Josi for a couple seasons. But Nashville, for Nashville's perspective, if they're going to try to do anything, I think it has to be within either this year or next year, because that's not looking good after that.
Yeah, the long-term picture in Nashville is looking pretty dicey if things don't go according to plan. As far as Tampa, though, I think it was to use a overused phrase, a tidy piece of business as far as getting rid of his contract before it turns into a pumpkin.
Yeah, he's 33 years old, making $6.75 on the cap. Man, I like this move short term for Nashville, especially if they can get Forsberg signed. But long term, they've got a lot of big money contracts on older players. Matt Duchene's 31 is making $8 million. Ryan Johansson's 29, making $8 million. Yossi's 32, making just over 9. Great, they're all good players. Yossi's a great player, but how long can they stay that way? McDonagh's 33, 6.75. Matthias Ekholm's 32, and he's at 6.25. So I look at that and then they've got Kyle Turris's dead cap for another 6 years, $2 million on the cap.
And I think they're getting a cap or capture for Shea Weber, if I'm led to believe correctly.
I don't think Weber's retiring.
Yeah, he. I think we talked about this last week there, Kev. I think he's getting Sean Prongered.
Oh, right.
Chris Pronger, you mean?
Basically, LTIR'd into retirement. Like, he's not formally retiring, he's LTIR'ing into nothingness.
Yeah. Yeah,
do you think Go ahead.
No, go ahead there, Kev.
Oh, no, I was just saying a joke. Do you think that the Golden Knights will retire his jersey? That's what I would do. If I was Arizona, I would trot out all the LTIR contracts that they had over the years in their new arena. Let's bring out Pavel Datsyuk. Let's bring out Chris Pronger. Let's bring them all out.
Let's make this franchise more of a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? Anyway.
Yeah, I cap recapture. I hate it. But yeah, I look at the top 4 for Nashville now. When you've got Josi, Ekholm, McDonagh, and Fabro, that's a solid top 4.
Yep.
3 lefties, but still a very good solid top 4, and you're going to be building around that, and I think that's a good way to try and sell Philip Forsberg on the fact that you're trying to win the next couple of years.
And then you brought in Jeremy Lauzon in a trade, and he's a good 5 option.
They've got him locked up long term too.
Yeah.
It's
I
just-
don't. Go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
if you get into like 2024 and you haven't done anything worth noting, that's going to be a pretty bad cap situation there, though. Like, are any of those contracts even tradable at that point?
Oh, 2 of them are.
They're not as bad as San Jose, but let's see here. And they've got a decent amount of cap space right now. Duchesne's got 4 years left, so it's somewhat tradable. You've got Ryan Johansson's got 3 years left, so.
Oh, Dylan's correcting you.
No, Ekholm is on Nashville. They've got both Fabro and Ekholm. I have cap friendly open. I'm making sure I don't make a mistake here.
I mean, okay, you could trade Ekholm. He has a no movement, or he does not have a no movement. So you could trade him if you wanted to. I'm not saying you should or should not, but that is an option out there. His name was out on trade a couple years ago, so that was a possibility before.
Yeah, this is a new contract though.
Yeah, at 6 and 232, you're probably that's a tough trade, but that's an option. Yeah. You also, I don't know where you're at with the unmade bed Yuri Askarov, but we'll see where he is at. But that could, in a couple years, maybe that allows you to move on from Saros. In terms of by the way, the other player was Grant Mismatch was his name in the Tampa trade.
Excellent hockey name.
Yes. They've got prospect wise, they've got Mark Del Gaizo and David Ferentz as potential prospects coming up. But not much else. Spencer Stajny on defense, but they aren't high draft picks. I mean, there's Luke Prokop as well. Let's not forget him. Obviously. So I mean, I think in terms of Forsberg, I don't see him leaving Nashville. I would say of all the free agents of all the top, depending on who you put in your top 3, I think Forsberg is in my top 3. I don't think I'm the one that I'm highest certain is not leaving is Forsberg. I think Forsberg is going to end up staying in Nashville. I think they'll find a way to work that out.
It definitely sounds like they're getting closer than it was initially reported last week. So, yeah, I think it's trending in that direction. Just you never know until it's done, though.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let me just before I want to paint the scenario. I think Sean will appreciate this. We have a tag team wrestling match. It's Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin taking on Alex Ovechkin and Tom Wilson. And the Ovechkin and Wilson are the heels. They're dominating Crosby in the corner. And then Crosby finds a move and gets out of the way. He dives for the hot tag to Malkin. Malkin gets the Pittsburgh crowd all going. They're standing up. Malkin's going to turn everything around. Boom! He turns on Sidney Crosby. And he joins the Washington Capitals in part of their alliance. And then running in to make the save is Marc-Andre Fleury. But no, he's also with the Washington Capitals. In a complete heel turn, does Evgeny Malkin and Marc-Andre Fleury turn on the Pittsburgh Penguins and join on the Washington Capitals? I would love that chaos.
Oh, God, that would be excellent.
Is there actually talk that Fleury's going to go to the Caps?
There was a talk that during that one of the teams that was interested in Fleury was Washington during the trade deadline. And he said no at the time. He did say no.
Well, he's a UFA now, and I think he's going to want to go to it. I don't know. And I don't know if Washington Where are they? Man, if they're gonna sign Malkin, I don't know if they've got.
Well, if they get Miller, I think they're out of Malkin.
Well,
But-
yeah. But the other thing is, like, yeah, Backstrom. They're gonna put Backstrom on LTIR. I think Wilson's out for a while too.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
I couldn't think of another tag team partner in Washington when I had pictured my scenario.
Devin's favorite player, Evgeny Kuznetsov.
Oh yeah.
Then you can. We're going off the rails here. Then you can go full on old school foreign heel mode with the Russians, especially in today's climate.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Managed by Nikolai Volkov.
Yes.
Although the one question mark that none of us really know the answer to is, if all these Russian guys go home in the offseason, are they going to be allowed to leave for next season?
Very interesting.
Yeah. Oh God.
What's going? Yeah. If you haven't heard, what's going on with Flyers prospect Ivan Fedotov. Look it up. It's kind of scary, and we might be going in like very Cold War-esque. I talked about how it's a damn shame that Alex McGillney's not in the Hall of Fame yet. You can find I think Sportsnet did a small documentary on what the Sabres and McGillney had to go through to get him over to the NHL, defecting from the Soviet Union. Go watch that. It's very topical now with what's going on with Fedotov and the question marks on whether or not Russian players can be allowed back or allowed to leave Russia if they go home. So it's kind of a scary and an eerie situation right now for sure. We were just joking about it, but it is very just weird and eerie.
Yeah, I haven't watched that doc myself, but I've heard it pretty critically praised. So I especially with how relevant it is, I definitely should get around to watching that.
Yeah. But getting back to that, I think Malkin is very much an option there. It would make sense. They'd have the first two picks from that draft. Was that the 2000 and was that 2002?
2004.
2004.
Was
2004. 03 was Fleury, and then all that. Yeah, 04 was Ovechkin and Malkin. 05 was Crosby.
Yeah, because Ovi was supposed to start a year ahead of Crosby, but because of the lockout season that year, they actually started their careers the same season.
Yeah, I mean, I as certain as I am of Forsberg staying in Nashville, I think Malkin is the one that I think is going to leave. Just doesn't. I don't think that there's a path to a deal there. But to me, in my opinion, I love Evgeny Malkin, but I think that there's some buyer beware. He's 35 years old.
Somewhat injury prone,
and after everything he's been through in Pittsburgh, I kind of wonder how much he's going to give in another organization. Like,
especially if he always, I'm not sure if he's actively felt this way or if he's complaining about it. I don't think I've ever heard about it publicly, but like always being second fiddle in that organization, I wonder if that maybe has some sort of complex in his head now.
Maybe, yeah. Like, my one criticism of Malkin is I never really thought. I think Malkin's a great player, but I've never really thought he took the mantle to be the guy that, like, if I need you to score, I will be there. I never thought Malkin was that guy.
He always stepped up when Crosby was down, though.
Not recently, though.
Yeah, he did. He did less. I had him in the hockey pool. He was great. Crosby goes down. Malkin, perfect. Let's go. Yeah, I think he was. I think he's just in the shadow of Crosby, and if he goes to Washington, he'll be in the shadow of Ovi. Like, it's not like he's going there to be I honestly, even if he goes, if he's smart with where he goes, he won't be the guy, and he doesn't need to be.
Yeah, like as much as I said, maybe it gave him a complex. Maybe it actually is to his benefit, at least at this point in his career. Like, maybe if he was like 29, 30, he would want to be the number one guy somewhere else. But now that he's been that guy for so long, maybe he thrives in that sort of not the main guy, but some guy, like your number one depth guy after the main guy.
He was also injured this past year too, and he still scored 42 points and 20 goals in 41 games.
Yeah, I just don't know how much I would pay him. I think he's going to want more than I would be willing to pay him.
That's fair. Like, he's again, the age thing is an issue. Him being 35.
I mean, John, do you still want to live up to your crazy trade deadline theory of potentially bringing in Malkin if we are able to get rid of Miller as like a maybe not like a win now option, but like a decent substitute as far as what Miller brought?
A 1 or 2 year deal, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you ever publicly stated that or if that was just like a conversation between you and I, but I definitely recall you mentioning that around the deadline for sure.
I'm pretty sure I put it on the podcast.
Okay.
But it's now out there now. If I didn't.
Man, I think it's too.
It depends on what he's willing to get paid.
And term. If it's a 1 or 2 year deal, I have no issues if they can find a way to make it work cap wise, because then you're not hurting your chances at re-signing Elias Pettersson.
So, like, let's say like 2 years at 6.5. Is that palatable?
Hells yeah.
He won't do it. I don't think he'd do it. I think he'd say no.
I think he'd do that deal for the right team. I don't know if the Vancouver would be the right team.
Although with the two young Russians, maybe you could kind of throw that in there as a bone. I don't know. Not
to mention the Alvin and Rutherford connections too. But
yeah, that too, yeah.
Which is where I was going originally with it.
Yeah.
I think it's a long shot more than anything else. I think I just put it out there as a full on bold, like, hilarious
pipe dream, but hilarious.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I prefaced it with like, "This is stupid, but I'm going with it."
I believe the term you used at the time was crazy. Like, this is crazy. It'll likely never happen, but hear me out.
Yeah, I maybe, or
at least that's how he sold it to me at the pub.
That does sound like a pub, Sean.
Oh, it definitely originated at the pub. You definitely told me that.
I was definitely a little.
One or two wobbly pops deep for sure.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. We'll see what happens there. The other name that is very popular out there right now is Jesse Puljujarvi. Some interesting conversation reports out there. According to one reporter, Puljujarvi has requested a trade. According to another reporter at Edmonton, he has not requested a trade, but it does appear that he is available for trade, which has Oiler fans steaming because especially if you're an analytics darling, you're an analytics person, you love Jesse Puljujarvi. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think what the Oilers are going to ask for is just, I personally wouldn't do it. I would I would trade a lot. I don't think that I would give up what the Oilers are asking for, which is apparently higher than a no lower than a second round pick, no lower than a top 6 forward or a top 4 defenseman. And I think that that's a ridiculous ask. Sorry. You can like Jesse Puljujarvi all you want. I don't see him worth that specifically. I would say no to that. If you're telling me a bottom 6, 3rd or 4th round pick, I would listen. But a top 6, top 4, higher than second, I'm not seeing it. It just looking at the history of Jesse Puljujarvi and what has happened in Edmonton, I can't give up that much.
Like, yeah, he's definitely had a more successful run with the Oilers in his second go around, but yeah, a little too steep for my liking for sure.
Depending on who those players are, or if you have an extra second round pick, I'd do it.
I'm trying to remember what Nikushkin, who everyone is popping this up for. What was he? Colorado. They signed him to a 1-year, one-way contract worth $850K.
After a horrible situation in Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, if you're comparing him to Nikushkin, and that's what the Nikushkin price is, I probably need to have a prove-it deal with Puljujarvi.
I mean, if the Bison King had a playoff run like Nichushkin just did, maybe I'm singing a different tune. But Puljujarvi, Pool Party, Bison King, whatever you want to call him by, did not have nearly as much of an impactful playoffs like Nichushkin did.
Yeah, the thing with Nichushkin was that he played his ELC in Dallas, then went back to Russia for a couple years. For 2 years. Came back, played in Dallas for a season, didn't score a single goal in 57 games.
And how many penalty minutes?
None.
Yeah.
And then
you could argue damn
he
near
signed
invisible
with Colorado. I just look at that, and with Puljujarvi, he has potential.
I agree.
Like he's got the last 2 seasons since he came back. 15 goals and 14 goals. Like he's got middle 6. He's a middle 6 forward with top 6 potential. I have no issues with that. The Oilers asking for that because he's still youngish. I still think he's got another level to go, and he probably needs out of Edmonton.
And as far as a negotiating tactic, you always ask more than what you realistically think you're going to get. So, like, I get that from the Oilers' point of view. I'm just not sure I want to pay that price per se.
A second, I think, makes a lot of sense, especially if you're a team that's looking for depth and you're more in a win now mode. Giving up a top 4 defenseman is a tough ask, and a top 6. If you're asking for a true below top 6 forward, that's a tough ask as well. But I think a second round pick makes sense to me for the right team.
Yeah, we'll see. That's I think that's going to go on for a while though. I don't see that getting done right away. I think that one might go on for a while. But we'll see. I've been wrong before. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Dylan brings up this trade. Puljujarvi for Blackwood, yes or no?
I mean, I'm not sure Edmonton is going to see Blackwood as a upgrade on their current goaltending situation. Actually, what I've heard more rumors about lately is potentially Campbell to Edmonton.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a lot more appetizing for Edmonton's point of view, not a Blackwood. and Blackwood probably didn't hurt his negotiating value in his COVID stances. Like ultimately, I think he did get vaccinated, but it initially got out there that he was resistant and whatnot, and it almost came to the point where like it was going to negatively affect the team if he kind of held out. So yeah,
again, I'm not sure New Jersey does that either, because I think that I think they can move past all that with Blackwood. I think he's a better goaltender than he showed, and they had a horrible year with goaltending.
Yeah.
How many goaltenders did they go through?
I think it was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
That many? Damn.
Yeah.
And to think that Colorado had it bad a couple of years ago.
and New Jersey needs defense, and they need to figure out how to build a defensive structure within that team. And I don't think trading away Blackwood and bringing in a Puljujarvi makes sense for them.
No. I agree with you.
Now, if you're going to do pie in the sky, like kind of thinking like that, Georgiev for Puljujarvi makes more sense in my eyes.
Yeah. I think that's definitely more palatable on both ends for sure. But are you saying that Luke Hughes is not the defensive stopgap that New Jersey needs?
They need more than that, though.
They need more than that. Luke isn't coming next year.
Yeah, he's a ways away.
I guess he's not on Quinn's level in that regard.
Well, like yeah, he's still going to be playing in the NCAA next year.
Oh, okay,
right, and then he'll come in later. But
I will admit, out of the 3 Hughes brothers, I know the least about Luke. So I was more so just making a joke there.
Well, I mean, I think also too. Maybe this is something we'll discuss with Derek more on tomorrow. But I wonder, in terms of development, did we, with all the stoppages and the stop and play, are we seeing a little bit of a slower development for some of these prospects? Do we need to be a bit more patient? Like,
that's probably an excellent question to ask Derek for sure.
To me, they had 7 to be specific: Bernier, Doss, Wedgwood, who is now in Dallas, Mackenzie Blackwood, John Gillies, Andrew Hammond, and Akira Schmid played 6 games.
Oh, so that's where Gillies ended up.
Yeah. He played in Calgary, I believe. He played a game against Calgary with New Jersey, I think. I think he was the goalie. I believe. Yeah, I guess that's about, in terms of the NHL, I don't know if there's any. I mean, there's Alex DeBrincat is going to be another interesting name.
You're gonna have to blow Chicago out of the water with an offer. And what did I can't remember who reported it, but it was like a high-ish first, another first, and a young player, and it wasn't enough. So you're gonna have to blow them out of the water.
Yeah.
Damn it, that means no JT Miller for DeBrincat. Damn it.
2 other quick things I wanted to get into here. Just a quick shout out. We did shout this out, but for those in Calgary, Boomer in the Morning, Boomer's show ended on Thursday. 15 years in Calgary. Started on the afternoons with Rob Kerr. Moved to the mornings, replaced a morning icon in Mike Richards, took over. Someone has some good shoes to fill there in 960. So congratulations to Boomer. I mean, whatever he's going to do next, sounds like he's going to be happy. And I just wanted to make sure that we got that out there, in the Calgary airwaves, and that Boomer was an icon. I think he's one of the more well-known Calgary radio voices out there. I don't know if he's way up there, but I think he's there. I don't think he's in the Jerry Forbes category, I wouldn't guess, but I mean, I think he's well respected, and I
think it's fair to say he's a tier below a Forbes as far as local legend status, but he definitely is deserving of respect. And acknowledgement of his career that he spent in Calgary. And I will admit a little bit of Flames naivety in the fact that I wasn't on that episode, but also friend of the show, right?
No, that was Ryan Pinder.
Oh, sorry. I stand corrected.
That's okay. Yeah, we never got Boomer on. I also wanted to quickly just make sure that this still stays in people's mind as the Canadian hockey program. Telus Swichalet, the Keg, Tim Hortons, and Scotiabank, and one other group.
And that just sounds so Canadian, that group of companies.
Yeah, they announced that they are six companies announced that they were pausing sponsorships. Canadian Tire also announced that they were pausing sponsorships based on the decisions that Canada, the hockey program, is making going forward. The standing committee will meet on the 27th and the 28th. They will be bringing in the law firm that represented Hockey Canada for this the June 2018 incident in question about the settlement. They'll be bringing in some more Hockey Canada people in as well. This is a story I do think, as much as fun as we have with the off season and all of the things going on, there is this, I still think I think it's important to follow this. The one name we have yet to hear from that I'm very curious of,
and you could say is the elephant in the room at this point,
TSN.
And I ultimately, maybe it's me being cynical, because of how much money they have tied in with that partnership, unless it becomes absolutely publicly untenable, TSN is probably just going to try and stay as low and not talk about it as much as possible, and hope against hope that basically this will eventually pass and that they can eventually resume as if nothing happened. I'm not sure if that's actually possible, but I have a feeling that that's kind of where TSN's kind of leaning at this point.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Chris. I think that they are going to hang on to the bitter end on this one.
There's just too much money tied in.
There's too much money tied in, programming and everything tied in as well. So
that is TSN's golden goose when they don't have NHL nationwide coverage, is the World Juniors and their partnership with Hockey Canada. And
if it wasn't for the fact that they're going to replay the 2022 World Juniors in August,
less than a month and a half.
In less than a month and a half, I think that they might be there might be a little bit more willingness to do something. But with that coming up so quickly, I think they'll just, I think they're going to work with them as opposed to negotiate, for lack of a better term,
against them. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of holding them hostage, which it's that saying kind of sounds weird, but I feel it's accurate, and I don't blame any of those sponsors. I actually applaud them, because that's how you change. That's how things change in today's day and age. It is with money, but I do think it's going to be. I think TSN we won't hear much from them. They'll be working the back channels more than anything else.
And an interesting kind of complication that kind of plays into this is the guy who initially reported this, Rick Westhead. Who does he currently work for?
Yeah,
TSN.
And I don't, but this whole thing, I don't think Hockey Canada is going to hold anything against them. I think what this is gonna clear out a lot of things that is going to make hockey better.
Oh yeah, it's going to be ultimately a net benefit in the long term. It's just interesting and complicated in how it's going to play out in the short term.
Yeah.
And I've heard a bunch of hypotheticals of what if it gets to a point where Hockey Canada feels that they have to outright cancel an already postponed World Juniors because of public pressure. And I'm not sure it'll get to that, but I can also understand that hypothetical.
I don't think it will get to that. I don't think we'll see a cancellation, but I think that there's going to be some interesting conversations that will have to happen. Where's the next World Juniors? Have we determined that yet, or it's
the one
In
after this
2023?
one? I'm not sure because obviously they're trying to still like the one that's in a month and a half is still in Edmonton. Actually, I think it's Edmonton specifically, not Edmonton and Red Deer, like what initially was planned.
The 2023 World Juniors is in Halifax and Moncton.
Also, it's still in Canada.
It was
in Red Deer.
supposed to be in Russia.
yeah,
Right, yeah, they did initially mention that right after the war started, right?
Yeah.
Is that when they switched course?
yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah, I wonder about that one. I don't think that the 2022 the replacement one is in trouble, but I do think if they don't see any progress into by December, that will be an interesting conversation.
Although with no corporate sponsors, like that's going to be interesting. How are they going to fill all that commercial airtime if all these sponsorships are on pause?
Bet365,
Yeah, all the betting.
all the betting, it's already there.
Bet99, Bet365, maybe allow MGM to do a little bit cross-border play there.
all those Ontario betting.
Oh right,
betting
what's
sites.
the one that half of
Bet Rivers.
Sports Center?
Bet Rivers or whatever.
Yeah, Bet Rivers. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Toolsy.
we laugh, but
It's insane.
yeah,
Yeah, it definitely is overboard, and they need to do something about the excessive leaning hard into sports betting. But at the same time, like if they're kind of forced into this position and they don't have any other sponsorships, I don't see any other easy way of filling that sponsorship airtime. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
yeah. The whole conversation around sports betting and children and teenagers, we'll leave that for another podcast. How about that?
Yeah.
Because we're well past bedtime. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes of podcast time. So we probably should wrap this up. But we ended up on a couple of divergence, and that happens, I guess. Sorry about that, everyone. But if you stuck around, great. Thank you. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyCanuck03 on Twitter.
I'm Matt Schneise on most social media.
Devin out in Berlin, Gordhow09. Tyler TNOBLE. I am KEVULE. Shifts on Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. We are back tomorrow with Derek Newmeyer for our NHL draft preview, discussing, amongst other things, the first pick of the draft, what the Canucks will do, and a whole bunch of other things. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.